broke it.
I think they want to sit there in the chair. That's too lax. That's too lax for adults. They might fall asleep. They might fall asleep and not play.
All right, we're going to start round 3 here. We have Jordan against Todd. Jordan will be on the bottom of your screen, and Todd will be on the top. Both these trainers here have very interesting teams. Jordan with the Amoonguss, Hariyama, Mimikyu, Stakataka, Camerupt, and Tapu Bulu. Very Trick Room-oriented team against Todd's team of Gengar, Whimsicott, Tapu Koko, Landorus, Therian, Tapu Fini, and Ferrothorn. So Todd, a more standard team, but with a very interesting combination of Gengar and Whimsicott, being able to trap them in with a combination of Disable and Encore, and just completely shutting down their moves. So this game, Todd will most likely have to play around Jordan's very, very strong Trick Room mode. Very hard into the Trick Room with the Camerupt and the Stack Attack and Hariyama, while being very strong, high damaging Trick Room sweepers, and the Amoonguss offering huge Trick Room support with the Spore and the Rage Powder. I think a big interesting component of this match will be the Ferrothorn. Being a very slow Pokemon itself, can most likely take advantage of the Trick Room that Jordan will want to set up. All right, so we're going to start game 1 here. We're going to see what each of these trainers chose as their leads. So we see Jordan throwing out the Mimikyu and Hariyama, and Todd throwing out Landorus and Tapu Fini. So the Hariyama with its fake out is most likely going to guarantee that Mimikyu can set up a Trick Room here. Landorus intimidating both of these physical attackers will make sure they deal less damage with their attacks, and the Tapu Fini will send out the Misty Surge, which could be potentially bad if Hariyama is the Flame Orb set that was fairly common last year in the 2017 season to boost its damage with the Guts ability. Interesting to see what Todd will do here, how he will respond to Jordan setting up the Trick Room. We see the Landorus switching out into the Whimsicott. Very supportive Pokemon here. Very fast, but does get the Prankster ability, meaning that it will get to move in a higher priority bracket. So good choice for Trick Room. We see the Ice Beam come off. Very interesting move choice on the Tapu Fini having the Ice Beam. We see the Disguise busted, and Mimikyu goes for the Trick Room. So the Whimsicott, it does get Encore, so it could potentially Encore the Mimikyu into Trick Room, forcing Jordan to reset the Trick Room of that he just set. And Tapu Fini does threaten the Hariyama here with a lot of damage from a Fairy type move. So even though Jordan does have the Trick Room up, he does not have the best board position, making it a very difficult turn for him here. We will see Tapu Fini switch out. Very interesting for the Ferrothorn. Being able to take advantage of that Trick Room, one of the slowest Pokemon out there. And Whimsicott does Encore the Hariyama. So Hariyama will be locked into Fake Out until it switches out, or if Encore runs out. And Mimikyu does go over the Shadow Claw onto the Whimsicott, dealing a good amount of damage. The Intimidate from Landorus paying dividends there. Not being able to be a 2-hit KO onto the Whimsicott is huge. Now with the Ferrothorn on the field and Hariyama locked into fake out, there will be most likely some switches coming out from Jordan's side. So this could be a good turn for Todd if he's able to call these switches correctly. See the Hariyama switch out in favor of that Tapu Bulu. Gonna bring the grassy terrain, heal each Pokemon at the end of the turn, and boost the grass moves of each Pokemon that is grounded. This could be very bad as the Ferrothorn does get Power Whip, which will be very strong coming off of that grassy terrain. We do also see the camera up get switched in, and we see the Ferrothorn use Swords Dance. Very interesting move choice. Gonna boost the Ferrothorn's attack by +2. And we do see the Whimsicott go for the Energy Ball, boosted by this grassy terrain, dealing about a quarter damage to the Tapu Bulu. Now, even though this Ferrothorn is at +2 attack, the Camerupt on the field, being a fire type, threatens it with a 4-time super effective fire move. So the Ferrothorn is very scared here of that Camerupt and might even switch, even though it does have that +2 boost in its attack stat. You see the Camerupt Mega Evolving, showing that it is Mega Camerupt with that sheer force ability, going to boost all his moves that have secondary effects. You see that. A Z move coming out here from Todd's Whimsicott, I believe. This is the Normalium Z. Yes, for Nature Power. So Nature Power changes based on the terrain you're in, and in Grassy terrain it becomes Energy Ball, which in turn becomes Bloom Doom. And because it is a non-damaging move, Whimsicott's Prankster makes it go first. So getting this Bloom Doom off, even in the Trick Room, is huge. It'll deal lots of damage to the Camerupt, dealing almost a one-shot, leaving it with 8 health left, and the Gyro Ball comes out onto the Tapu Bulu. Big error by Todd there, most likely predicting that the Nature Power would kill the Camerupt, so now the Camerupt gets to fire off a free Eruption here. So Eruption deals damage based on their HP, and because Camerupt got hit with that Z move, 8 HP, it does not deal a lot of damage on Eruption. So overall, good turn here for Todd. He got a knockout onto the Tapu Bulu, and the Camerupt is essentially knocked out here as Whimsicott can use its +1 priority Nature Power to knock it out whenever it wants to. I do see the Hariyama come out though, so the fake out could play a role in how this turn rolls out. So Todd's Ferrothorn still in a very good position here. Slower than the Camerupt, so it can't threaten the KO, meaning that Whimsicott is free to use a move. And we do see the Whimsicott switch out, however, into the Landorus. Going to intimidate that Hariyama once again and threaten some big damage on that Camerupt if Todd chooses not to KO it this turn with his Ferrothorn. So the Ferrothorn go for a Protect here, not wanting to take any fire damage or the Fake Out. See the Flamethrower off of the Camerupt into the Ferrothorn Protect. So the Close Combat, not the Fake Out from the Hariyama into the Landorus, dealing about 1/8 of the Landorus' health and but lowering the Hariyama's defense and special defense. Good switch there by Todd, bringing in the Intimidate and the Resist on the Fighting type move. The Trick Room runs out, but we do see the Flame Orb revealed on the Hariyama, most likely being the Guts ability. So now Hariyama will deal bonus damage because it is afflicted by a status from the Flame Orb. So the speeds are interesting this turn. Landorus most likely being fast and staying on the field, threatens a KO onto the Camerupt. And the Ferrothorn was the slowest thing in Trick Room, so most likely this Hariyama is faster than the Ferrothorn, threatening KO onto that. So we do see the Camerupt go for a Protect here. And the Landorus goes for an Earthquake. But it is in the grassy terrain. This will deal less damage due to the grassy terrain on the field. Hariyama not taking much damage at all despite the -1 attack from the Intimidate. And we see the Close Combat come out onto the Ferrothorn, picking up the knockout even with the -1 thanks to that Flame Orb Guts boost. And its defenses drop even further. We do see the Iron Barbs going to deal a little bit of damage back to that Hariyama, but I would say Jordan is really happy to trade that little bit of damage for a knockout onto the Ferrothorn. We do see Todd choosing to send in his Tapu Fini, getting rid of that grassy terrain. And now both Pokemon are most likely faster. The Hariyama threatened by that Tapu Fini at -2 special defense will most likely get the one-hit KO onto this Hariyama. So Jordan going to have to opt to sack off one of his Pokemon here, as he chooses to preserve the Camerupt and switches back in the Mimikyu. Mimikyu with Disguise already busted will take damage from these moves. Earthquake from the Landorus, knocking out the Hariyama, dealing about half damage to the Mimikyu and a little bit to his own Tapu Fini, and Tapu Fini reveals the Brine. Brine, a very interesting move. It has 65 base power, but when the opposing Pokemon is below half health, it deals double damage. So perhaps partnering with some of the faster Pokemon on his team, Todd hopes to deal half damage and then Brine to knock them out the rest of the way. And with the camera up being very slow here, the game is most likely over in Todd's favor. And we do see the Landorus switch out into the Whimsicott, most likely just wanting to cycle the Intimidate for later. The Protect is Jordan just scouting for information, very smart here, hoping to see some other moves. We do see the Brine, so Todd maybe is choiced, maybe is just using the same move not to reveal any extra information. So we do see it try to go for the double protect, but it does not. Whimsicott uses nature power and will do some damage resisted onto the Camerupt. Not enough for the knockout. And Tapu Fini does use Brine. So no information gained there for Jordan, but he gave it his try. So game one does go to Todd. So that Ferrothorn proving huge for Todd there, completely putting a stop to Jordan's Trick Room mode, being slower than most of his Pokemon. So Jordan will most likely have to adapt to figure out how he can deal with that Ferrothorn before he sets up the Trick Room. Because in Trick Room, he threatened damage onto almost all his Pokemon. Even though Mega Camerupt had the 4-time super effective move, he got so much damage on it before he used the Eruption that it did no damage to the Ferrothorn. So Todd most likely going to bring this a similar strategy, his fast mode plus Ferrothorn to handle the Trick Room, and we'll see what Jordan chooses to do in order to stop the Ferrothorn in the Trick Room mode.
Did you win, Lily? And Zane.
Zane, 1. All right, then we're going to go into game 2 here. We'll see what each of these trainers decided to do for this game 2. See Todd there wearing his Kumo-o clothing. The Stack Attack and Hariyama coming out here from Jordan. And the Landorus and Tapu Fini coming out from Todd. So the same lead from Todd as game 1, and a different lead from Jordan as game 2. And the Pokemon we didn't even get to see last game, the Stack Attacker here. The Intimidate is not going to appreciate that much, being a physical attacker. But Todd does have the option to switch here into the Ferrothorn, as neither of these Pokemon threaten much damage, especially without the Flame Orb on the Hariyama onto his Ferrothorn. As Stack Attack can learn Trick Room on Jordan's side, and I do not see why he would lead it if it does not know Trick Room, as he probably wants to get Trick Room set up immediately with the way his team is constructed. See Hariyama going for the Fake Out onto that Landorus, going to stop any ground or fighting moves it was going to use there, and we do see the Brine come out again. So Todd hasn't used any moves besides Brine from his Tapu Fini. So it could be that he might be choiced in a choice item, such as Choice Specs. So we do see the Trick Room set up by the Sakataka, which means that Jordan will have the 2 fastest Pokemon out on the field. Sakataka, a Rock and Steel type, it does get 2 very strong moves in Gyro Ball and Rock Slide. Being able to threaten damage onto the Landorus from either one of those will deal huge damage. Perhaps with the close combat from Hariyama, it could knock it out. But we do see him just withdraw the Sakataka in favor of the Tapu Bulu, wanting to reset the terrain. Alright, we do see the Tapu Fini protect, and the Hariyama go for the knockoff onto the Landorus. We will see its item here. That Landorus is an Assault Vest Landorus. So setting it up so that Jordan can do more damage to that Landorus later in the game without the Assault Vest. And we will see the Landorus go for the U-turn onto the Tapu Bulu, getting a little bit of chip damage, but more importantly, being able to switch and get better board position. So the Landorus U-turns out, Todd taking his time. Sends out the Whimsicott. Last game we did see that has a Z move, and from the Grassy Terrain, it can use the Bloom Doom, which will deal a lot of damage to whoever he wants to target. And with that switch in, Hariyama does also get to activate its Flame Orb, being able to deal more damage, thanks to its Guts ability. So this Tapu Fini and Whimsicott could potentially both be threatened by a poison move, such as Poison Jab from the Hariyama, if it does carry that. We do see the Tapu Fini switch out for Ferrothorn. And we do see the Encore go onto the Hariyama, locking it into Knockoff. So it does use Knockoff onto the Ferrothorn, receiving Iron Barbs damage, and knocking off the leftovers. So removing that Ferrothorn recovery, very huge. And the substitute from the Tapu Bulu to set up a free substitute in the face of these 2 Pokemon. So Tapu Bulu will be protected for the next turn, most likely from the Ferrothorn Gyro Ball. So now Jordan is in a very threatening position, having a protected Tapu Bulu against the Whimsicott and Ferrothorn from Todd. Close combat could definitely knock out the Ferrothorn here, but he is encored into the knockoff. And we do know that Whimsicott has a Z move, so knockoff will not be doing much damage to either of these Pokemon now. So perhaps Jordan might switch here to remove the knockoff Encore. As you do see Jordan taking his time here, thinking it through. This will be a vital part of this turn. So Tapu Bulu protects, so we will see the Hariyama just going for an attack here, and no switches from Todd either. As you see the Bloom Doom come out from that Normalium Z nature power. Who will this target? See the Bloom Doom onto the... These animations take so long. The Hariyama. So this could knock out with the -1 special defense on Hariyama, and it does, giving Jordan a free switch in the middle of Trick Room, which could be potentially more beneficial to Jordan than anything else, except for that Swords Dance on the Ferrothorn. Predicting that protect from the Bulu perfectly, now Ferrothorn is in a prime position to start dealing some damage to these slow Pokemon with Power Whip, especially from that grassy terrain. So Jordan does get a switch in here into the Camerupt. Now with that Z move blown, he won't be able to get chunked down to 8 HP like we saw last game. So he is more free to use a Eruption or Flamethrower, which will deal huge damage to both of these Pokemon. And without that Assault Vest, Landorus Therian will be taking a lot of damage even if it wants to switch in here. And the Tapu Bulu is threatening any Tapu Fini switches. So Jordan is in a very good position threatening any switch in and any the 2 Pokemon that are on the field. So all 4 Pokemon on Todd's side are very threatened by this Camerupt. So Todd will have to find a way to remove it before it sweeps through his whole team. Camerupt does Mega Evolve. No switches from Todd's side. Ferrothorn does go for the Protect. And what does the camera do? Obviously, the nature power turn into the energy ball, into the camera up most likely, yeah, dealing just over half, and the flamethrower onto the Whimsicott, calling the Ferrothorn Protect. Whimsicott will get one shot, not having the Focus Sash because it does have that Z crystal. So Whimsicott goes down, and Tapu Bulu uses the Swords Dance, taking a page out of Ferrothorn's book, setting up. So now Tapu Bulu has +2 attack behind the substitute. It's in a very strong position. However, we have seen that has Protect, Substitute, and Swords Dance. And unless its fourth move is Superpower, it is not threatening much damage onto the Ferrothorn. Which means that... Oh, with the Tapu Fini switch in, though, Bulu does threaten damage now onto the field. So the Bulu does threaten that Tapu Fini very heavily, but it cannot do much to the Ferrothorn, assuming it does not have Superpower as its final move. So interesting turn here, a little rock, paper, scissors here. Tapu Bulu beats Fini, Fini beats Camerupt beats Ferrothorn, Ferrothorn beats Tapu Bulu. So the way these trainers play this turn will be vital to the ending of this game. Camerupt protecting. Tapu Fini using Ice Beam into the Tapu Bulu, so very cleverly not attacking to the Camerupt. We still will see the substitute fade. And Tapu Bulu here goes for a Bloom Doom. So, especially at +2 attack, this Tapu Bulu Bloom Doom will most likely knock out the Tapu Fini and deal a lot if it went to the Ferrothorn, but not knock out. It does go into the Tapu Fini, so this will most likely knock out, especially after that Swords Dance. Yeah, just dealing so much damage to that Tapu Fini. So now Todd is down to his last 2 Pokemon, the Ferrothorn and the Landorus. And we just see the Jab Ball come out onto the Bulu, knocking it out thanks to that Swords Dance. So getting the knockout into that Bulu there was huge for Todd. Predicting that the camera will protect, he doubled into it, getting rid of the substitute and picking up the knockout. If Jordan had attacked there with his camera up, it could have been potentially devastating. We do see the Stack Attacker come in and the Landorus come in. And the last 2 Pokemon for each. Landorus is pretty free here to just Earthquake, and there's not much Jordan can do unless he has Wide Guard on the Stack Attacker. If the Wide Guard does come out here, he could potentially end the game. Kemp goes to the Protect and fails, but the Superpower comes out onto the Camerupt, bringing it down to 11 health, not quite picking up the knockout. Ferrothorn uses Seed Bomb onto the Stack Attacker, picking up the knockout. So it does look like Todd will take this game, as Stack Attacker was most likely hoping to knock out the Landorus before it could kill the Camerupt. Not much Camerupt can do here against the Landorus, it being faster. And Camerupt goes for the Protect, does get the Protect off. And we see Landorus Superpower, not wanting to hurt his own Ferrothorn. Very good play by Todd. And the Seed Bomb onto the Camerupt as well. So perhaps Jordan is just trying to hope for a Earthquake crit onto the Ferrothorn, but it does not look like it will happen. And we will see the match go to Todd. Superpower picks up the knockout. Yet. So Todd wins this round 3 in a 2-0 manner.